Perfecto. Y la vamos a grabar, ¿va? O ya queda grabada en
Ya queda en YouTube. Sí,
va,
ya queda en YouTube.
Perfecto, perfecto.
Y yo lo agarro a las 3.
Todavía no aparece nada.
Se oye un sonido por ahí.
Sí, sí. Yo me voy a mutear, ¿listo? Entonces ahora ya estamos transmitiendo.
Ay, ok, perfecto. Muy buenas tardes a todas y todas nuevamente. Nos encontramos en la primera conferencia magistral de este día en el cual, como ustedes saben, este cuarto encuentro regional Sí que Emprende, en el que queremos innovar, conectar y escalar, pues tiene como propósito principal que sea un espacio de encuentro, de articulación, de intercambio de experiencias para la promoción y el fomento de la cultura emprendedora y de innovación en todos los países de la región SICA. Así es que por eso debemos de conectarnos, innovar y poder escalar en todo este espacio que es de ustedes. En este primer día del encuentro vamos a tener como primera conferencia denominada ¿Cómo inspirar la innovación? Esta conferencia, que es un momento emocionante para nosotros porque es la primera con la que abrimos, pues también después de la inauguración con nuestras autoridades, es emocionante y a la vez inspiradora esta conferencia de Jeff Hoffman, que habla sobre cómo lidiar con el cambio, especialmente teniendo en cuenta el vertiginoso ritmo al que se desarrollan las nuevas tecnologías y queremos que desafíe la audiencia a liderar sus industrias aprendiendo para identificar las nuevas tendencias y capitalizar las oportunidades. Esta conferencia también busca ser bastante práctica y accionable para cada una y uno de nosotros, compartiendo pues con la audiencia diferentes técnicas para activar esta innovación. Así es que le doy la más cordial bienvenida a Jeff Hoffman, CEO del Global Entrepreneurship Network, quien es presidente del GEM, del Global Entrepreneurship Network, y donde se enfoca Jeff en brindar aportes estratégicos y comunicar la visión del GEM. Hoffman también es un emprendedor exitoso, un director ejecutivo debidamente en todo su tiempo de trayectoria, también es un orador motivacional mundialmente reconocido y es autor de varios bestsellers en el mundo. Así es que le doy la más cordial bienvenida a Jeff Hoffman y nos quedamos con él, sin antes decirles de que los invito también a toda la audiencia para que puedan realizar sus preguntas y que si el tiempo pues así nos lo permite, podemos desarrollar preguntas y respuestas para Jeff, ¿verdad? Y después pues vamos a hablar de lo que sigue en esta interesante agenda del cuarto encuentro Sí que Emprende. Así es que adelante y bienvenido.
Hoffman. I'm the chairman of the Global Entrepreneurship Network and a longtime serial entrepreneur. And today we're going to talk about innovation, how to inspire it, what it means, and what are some of the best practices that very innovative people are using. So we're going to start jumping right in here with this question, because this is the question I always ask when you look at the world's most innovative people. The question is this: what is it that they are doing that everybody else isn't? Why are they so innovative? They must be doing things differently than everybody else. And the answer is, it's true. There are habits and techniques that the world's most innovative people and innovative companies use that everybody else isn't. So what I've been doing is studying that for many years. And what we're going to do today is share some of these innovative habits and practices so that you can increase your odds of being more innovative and coming up with the next great idea for your current business, for your startup, for whatever it is. A lot of my friends have been super innovative and come up with solutions to problems. And I started studying the ones that are successful and asking that question. Let's see what they're doing differently that makes them more innovative. This is my friend Mike. Mike wanted to show pictures of his kids and things to his friends. And back then it was difficult to share pictures with people. So Mike created a little something called Instagram. He's the founder of Instagram because he was trying to find a better way to share pictures with people. Pretty innovative. This is my friend Lars. Lars used to get lost all the time driving back in the days of paper maps. And he'd get very frustrated because he couldn't read a map, couldn't fold a map. And one day, sort of sitting in his car, looking up into the sky, saying, I don't want to ever get lost again. There's got to be a better way to do this. Lars actually created Google Maps. Google did not invent Google Maps. They bought it from Lars here for like $1 billion. So it pays to be innovative and solve problems in new ways. This is my friend Nolan. Nolan invented a little something called video games. Nolan's company was Atari that created video gaming, and he's the guy that hired Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak to build the first computer ever to play video games on. And then this is Steve Wozniak. Woz and I actually just came back from a trip to Saudi Arabia where we were talking about innovation. Obviously, Woz and Jobs created Apple. So the question around when I'm around all these people is, what is it they're doing that makes them so innovative that I could be doing and that you could be doing? And that's what we're going to share today. And here's the first part, that most of the time when people are talking about innovation and about how to innovate the work that they're doing, people have a tendency to look inward, right? You go look at your business so you can try to figure out how you can make your business more innovative. When somebody says, we're falling behind, we got to innovate, you go look at the way you do business and you say, what can we improve? But part of what I noticed was that the world's most innovative people and companies don't just look at their business. They set aside time to go look everywhere else and see what everybody else is doing. And I want to explain to you the story of sort of how I learned that, to do that and become more innovative. So this is a 5-year-old. In case you don't know what one of these is, you've either been one or you've at least had one, a 5-year-old. So for this day, I was agreed to babysit to watch a 5-year-old for the day. And why is 5 important in this story? 5 is important in this story because 5 years old is around the age where children question everything. Everything you say to a 5-year-old, they say why, right? Put your shoes on, why? Because we have to go to the store, why? Because we need food, why? Because we have to eat, why? Because if we don't eat, we'll die, why? Everything you say to a 5-year-old is why. But what I noticed that's interesting is most of us stopped that habit of childlike wonder. By the way, this is actually my TED Talk. It's out there. It's called The Power of Childlike Wonder, which you can still watch the whole thing. I'm going to give you the short version of it here. So this day, I said I was going to watch a 5-year-old for the day and stay home. But I forgot something. I needed it to work at home that day for the office. So said to the 5-year-old, get your shoes on and get in the car. We have to run to the office. And the 5-year-old started walking across the room, shuffling her feet on the carpet and going really slow. And I said, come on, we got to go to the office. Let's go. And she kept walking slowly. And I said, go already. Doesn't make carpet. I have no reason to know how they make carpet. Just get in the car. And she said, well, I'm just wondering how carpet is made. And I said, well, I don't know. And she said, but you're an adult. I said, they don't teach you how to make carpet just because you're an adult. And she shook her head and she was disappointed. And then I was like, well, now she's like upset at me. So I tried to think back to when I was in school, and we watched like a film one day, and it showed these women using these giant machines called looms, and they were weaving carpet back and forth on machines like this. So I said to the 5-year-old, it's a giant machine called a loom, and it goes back and forth and it weaves carpet. And she shook her head and smiled, and I said, what? And she said, you don't really know how to make carpet, do you? And I said, I don't need to know how to make carpet, just get in the car. So we start walking towards the car. She starts moving again. We get to the car. And we walk up to the car. The 5-year-old taps on the window. And she says to me, how do they make glass? And I said, who cares how they make glass? Just get in the car. She said, well, I'm just curious, how is glass made? I said, my company doesn't make glass. Never in my life will I have to make glass. So I don't know and I don't care. And she said, I thought you went to college. And I said, well, I didn't study glass in college. And she said, well, just tell me how they make it. And so I stood there and I thought, I'm not going to lose another discussion to a 5-year-old. So I started thinking, and all I could remember was in 8th grade, we went on a trip, and we went on a trip to a glass blowing factory. And I remembered that there was this big red hot heat, and they heated up the glass and swirled it. And I said to the 5-year-old, they take heat, these big giant furnaces, and you put sand in it, and the sand melts into glass. And she started laughing, and I said, what? She said, that's not how they make it. It is. I said, that is how they make glass. And she was disappointed in me again. So I said, get in the car. So before she gets in the car, she taps on the plastic part that goes up between the two windows. If you see this picture of a car, in between the front and the back window, there's like a black plastic strip. And she taps on it and she goes, what is this called? I said, it's not called anything. Just get in the car. She said, what do they call this? I said, they don't call it anything. It's just the plastic part between the two windows. And she turned and looked at me very upset. And she said, if it doesn't have a name, she said, how do they order more of those on the assembly line? Well, guess what, folks? It turns out that that piece between the front and the back window does have a SKU number and a part number. It's called a B pole. And that is how they ordered more of those. And so I was wrong. So I finally get her in the car and we go to the office. We get to the office, the 5-year-old never stops asking questions. And as we walk through the office, she starts questioning everything we do. And she said, what is that girl doing? Why is that guy printing that? Why do you have to print 2 copies of that? When we're walking through the office, the lobby, she said, what is that machine on that table in the lobby? And why do you have 2 of those things? And I was like, oh my gosh, stop asking me questions. But when we got back to the office, she went in the conference room to eat a snack. And I sat at my desk and I realized I was a little upset, but I was not upset that she asked all these questions. I was upset that I don't know the answers to the questions. So I called my office manager in and I said, excuse me, I said, what is that machine on the table in our lobby and why do we have 2 of those? And she looked at me and said, what? I said, there's a machine in our lobby. The 5-year-old just walked past it. And she asked me what it is and why there's 2 of them, and I don't know. My office manager said, Jeff, I don't know. Those machines have been here since you hired me. I said, well, somebody has to know. Go find out. She came back later and she said, Mr. Hoffman, no one in the office has any idea what those machines are. And I said, well, how come nobody ever asked about them except a 5-year-old? She said, I guess nobody wondered about them. And I said, get the CFO. So I called my CFO and I said, you got to find out what those are. So he does the research and he comes back 30 minutes later. And he says, I have some good news and some bad news. And he said, the good news is I found out what those machines are. And he said, Jeff, in the days before PowerPoint, we used to have to print our presentations for customers, and those are spiral binders. They would bind the presentation with a spiral thing so you can hand it to a customer. I said, what's the bad news? He said, yeah, boss, the bad news is we've been leasing those month by month. So this started me on something that I dare all of you to try. What happens is we get so used to seeing the same things in our work and our life every day that we stop questioning them. So we decided to have 5-year-old day. And what I did was I said, this Friday, I want everyone in the company to come in, pretend you're 5. I want you to question everything we do at this company and why we do it, and keep saying why until we can either answer the question of why we do the things we do at our company, or if we don't have a good answer, let's stop doing them. And I'm telling you, by acting like a 5-year-old and asking questions about everything we do, I think that we reduced 40% of our work. We were 40% more efficient because you stop questioning the things around you when you get busy. And it's a bad idea. So we now do 5-year-old day 2 times a year, where everybody comes in and we question everything, and it is amazingly productive. The world's most innovative people never stop asking why. Everybody else does because we get too busy. Take the time to ask why you're doing what you're doing. Do 5-year-old day and let me know how it goes. So guess where that led me? I went home after 5-year-old day and I said, okay, I couldn't answer any of the 5-year-old's questions. And she was curious about everything, and I'm not curious about anything except my work. And that's not good. So I thought to myself, how do they make glass? So that night I decided to go teach myself something new to see where it would lead. And I started researching how they make glass. And I started researching one of the biggest glass companies in the United States called Corning. They make glass coffee pots. That's what I knew. My coffee pot in my kitchen said Corning. But I would have never guessed this is the lobby to their innovation center. I would have never guessed that a coffee pot company has a lobby that looks like this. And I asked them what exactly, I went to visit and I said, what are you working on? And they said, smart glass. And I said, show me. And so this is the demo of smart glass for real. These 2 women are walking down the street and they're walking past a store that has smart glass. And instead of going in the store, the one woman sees a white coat that she likes on one of the dummies in the store. But when she touches the window and points at it, the window figures out what she's pointing at, just like the glass on your phone does. And the coat appears in 3D image and it floats over to the window. And you can see what she's doing with her fingers. She's spinning it around to look at it. She's not even in the store. She's interacting with the window of the store because it's smart glass. And then, because guess what else is on the end of your finger? Your fingerprint. So when she touches the window figured out who she was, and the window has looked on her Facebook and Instagram. And down below there, those 4 stars, the window is telling her which of her friends bought that coat and how well they liked it. And it's telling her, your friends love this coat. And you know what else the window is doing? It's looking to see if she bought gloves or a hat that go with the coat. And since she didn't, the window, not the salesperson, the window is offering her a deal. If you buy the coat right now, I can sell you these gloves for half price because they go with the coat and your friends all love them. So without ever going into the store and without ever talking to a human, this woman has interacted with smart glass. And by the time she gets home, that coat and gloves are already shipping to her house. I would have never discovered smart glass had I not taken the time to figure out how they make glass. What I'm telling you is learn something new outside of your industry, because that's what the world's most innovative people do. They look to see what the rest of the world is doing, not just what you're doing in your industry. Every night while you're sleeping, some amazing thing happened in the world. Some new technology was created. If you want to be an innovator, you need to wake up in the morning and be the first person to find smart glass and figure out how to use it in your industry or whatever it was. So while I was looking at glass, I started learning about augmented reality, right? And this is a glass demo where when you're looking at houses, you're looking, as you can see on the paper, a 2-dimensional drawing of a house. But with the smart glass of an augmented reality app, when I pointed at the 2-dimensional drawing, it actually appears in full color 3-dimensional dimensions. So I started saying, how can I use augmented reality glass and devices in my business? How could you use it in your business? Then I started looking, that led me to looking at virtual reality. And I began saying, if somebody put on smart glasses, could they tour my product? Could they see my facility? Could I sell my products better using virtual reality? This only came from me spending time researching glass one night. And that led me to AI. What really is artificial intelligence? How can I use it in my business? How can artificial intelligence better predict what my customers want and what they're going to buy next so I can run a smarter business and manage inventory and product development better? From artificial intelligence, I stumbled into something I would have never imagined. When I was studying AI, I saw this word called holography. And I started looking and I discovered this particular product is one that Microsoft, I'm not promoting Microsoft, I'm just telling you that Microsoft is spending billions on holograms. And I was like, wait, why? What are they? So I started going down this other rabbit hole of what is holography. This product's called HoloLens, HOLOLENS. But check it out. When you are shopping for a product, I want to buy a motorcycle. If I was the company selling motorcycles or motorbikes, and I was using this holography technique, the motorcycle itself appears on my desk in 3 dimensions. Look at this picture. Somebody's at home shopping for your product, and all of a sudden, your product appears on their desk in 3 dimensions. I can change the color. I can spin it around. I can listen to the sound of the engine. How could you sell your product better if it appeared as a hologram on the desk of your customer while they were shopping? And I started thinking, remember what I told you? You need to be the first person in your industry to figure out what new technologies there are when you wake up in the morning and how to use them. So some friends of mine are in the entertainment business, and they were looking at these holograms, and they created, you might have read about this, even though it was years ago. This is the famous American rapper Tupac, but he's not really here. This is a concert they did where they brought Tupac back to life by a hologram. So that is a hologram of him doing a concert, and the concert sold out. They discovered holograms and holography, and they produced a hologram concert of Tupac. Then they did another one. This is Elvis Presley back in concert, except Elvis is long dead. This is a hologram concert of Elvis that sold out. Then they took this new technology and they got a cooler idea. There is a pop star in Japan. She sells out every single concert, 10,000 people at a time, which is crazy because she's not real. She's a hologram. She sells out concerts. She sells out t-shirts. People buy her music, and she's not real. There's a real girl singing, but the concert is a hologram girl who never gets sick, never does drugs, never calls in late, never asks for more money. She's a hologram, and she does sold out concerts everywhere. So look at new technologies and ask yourself, how could I be the first person in my industry to adapt something that someone else thought of, not me? Quit looking only at your industry. That's what innovators do. Lately, I'm looking at facial recognition to try to figure out how can I use it. My main industry is travel. And I already saw that Richard Branson and Virgin are using facial recognition by putting customer service agents in the airport. They're just standing in the airport. And as people are walking by to their flights, the facial recognition is looking and it's saying, not my customer, not my customer. And then it sees me and it says, oh, Mr. Hoffman is a Virgin Atlantic customer. He's on his way to London on one of our flights on gate 13. And this person approaches me and says, hello, Mr. Hoffman. I just want to thank you for flying our airline today. Do you need anything? Before you get on the plane, I'm here to help you. Facial recognition is helping her find her customers as people are walking through the airport. So many innovative ideas. If you're only looking to see what is the world creating and how can I use that? All that started because a 5-year-old asked me how to make glass. And my answer was, I don't need to know how to make glass. The truth is the world's most innovative people research all kinds of other things outside of their industry, and that's where they get new ideas. So moving on. The world's, entrepreneurs are like farmers, except that what we harvest are ideas. We plant the seeds of an idea. We water them, we feed them, we give them sunlight. A lot of them die, and we hope some of them come to life. And these seeds of ideas happen because I noticed these innovators start to observe a much broader world than just theirs. So let me explain that. I created a technique that you can use tomorrow, besides doing 5-year-old day. Tomorrow, you could start info sponging. Now, I made up that word, but let me tell you what info sponging means. When I noticed that these really innovative people are constantly looking to see what the rest of the world has invented to see if they can be the first person in their industry to use it. In the same way, my friends in the music industry stole the idea of holograms and did a concert with Tupac Shakur, even though he was dead, by using the idea of holograms. And they were very successful. What ideas can you find in the rest of the world and bring to your industry before anyone else sees them. So I created this technique called info sponging to do that, because here's the problem. The problem is, let's say you're in healthcare. If you're in the healthcare business, you know what you do? All you do all day long is work on healthcare problems, okay? And the problem with that is that you never see any ideas outside of healthcare. So here's my technique of info sponging. Here's what I do. I challenge myself to learn one new thing every single day. And so for most of the day, you can work on healthcare. But for 10 or 15 minutes every day, I usually do this in the morning. Before I start my day, I take 15 minutes to do my info sponging. What does that mean? For 15 minutes, you do not work for your company. For 15 minutes, you do not work in the healthcare industry. Here's what you're going to do in those 15 minutes. Every day, you're going to learn one new thing that you don't need to know. It's not part of your industry today, okay? Just follow your curiosity, something you've always wondered about. How do they make glass? Maybe that's what I'm going to learn today. At the end of each day, you write down one sentence about what you learned. I'll give you an example in a minute. And you try to put these ideas together in new ways. I want you to think of knowledge like puzzle pieces. Every new fact you learn, every new thing you learn is like a puzzle piece. But if I just gave you a piece of a puzzle today and said, what is this puzzle going to be? You'd say, Jeff, you gave me one blue puzzle piece. I don't know. And if I gave you 2 pieces, 3 pieces, you still don't know. But what if every day you took another piece of the puzzle and every day you moved them around your desk and every day you stared at them to say, what puzzle can I make out of all these pieces? One day you would suddenly wake up and say, I see it. I see something forming that no one else has seen. How does that work? So I'm going to tell you about a guy named Travis. One day for his info sponging, Travis read a story about the sharing economy. He didn't know what that was. He was learning one new thing a day he didn't need to know. And what he wrote down about the sharing economy is that a lot of people have resources they wish they could share with other people. What does that mean? He didn't know, but he wrote that down. That's his info sponge. Another day, he read a story about task-based freelance work. What does that mean? What that means is, and this is what he wrote down, everybody doesn't want a full-time job. Sometimes they just want you to give them a task to do. Go do this task for me, and I'll pay you just for that task. You don't have to get a job here. So he wrote down, and he said, that's interesting. In the sharing economy, people have resources to share. In the task-based world, people don't want a job. They just want you to give them a task to do and pay them for that. Another day, he info sponged and wrote down something about micropayments. You don't have to have money. If you have a phone, you can pay each other using your phone app, right? And so you don't need to physically see the other person to exchange money. Then he read a story about the side hustle. And what he wrote down was, a lot of people have a full-time job, but they wish they could make a little extra money on the way to work or on the weekend. And he wrote that down. These are all different puzzle pieces. And he stared at all those things. And then he was staring at all the cars and all the traffic in the city. And he got a crazy idea. What if you took this sharing economy, combined it with task-based work, paid with micropayments, gave people a side hustle that would alleviate traffic? And guess what Travis invented? Uber. Travis didn't invent Uber by staring at taxi companies. Because if you were staring at taxi companies and you said, how do I start a big transportation company? The first thing everyone would tell you is go buy a taxi. But if you were staring at the rest of the world and studying the sharing economy and studying micropayments and task-based freelance systems, you would have invented the world's biggest taxi company that does not own a single car. Uber was a function of looking to see what cool new ideas the rest of the world had invented that he was the first to bring to the transportation industry. That is your job to do that. That is, in fact, how one of the companies I was a part of, Priceline.com, which a lot of you may know as Booking.com. These are the same company. We were studying online real-time revenue analysis, yield management systems. We were studying reverse auctions. We were studying buyer-driven commerce. We weren't looking at travel agents. We were looking at all these other concepts that we didn't know what they meant. And we found a way to put all these concepts together into a brand new company idea that nobody had ever thought of before, that created a multi-billion-dollar company out of new ideas that no one in travel had ever tried before. So I want to challenge you to do info sponging. I want to challenge you to learn one new thing every day. If you can't spend 10 minutes a day to just read one new article that's not in healthcare or your industry, then do it once a week, do it a couple times a week, but make time to not work for your company, not work for your industry, and go learn something new and figure out how to combine new ideas in your industry before anybody else sees those patterns forming. There's a third and last part I want to share with you today. This part is called Blue Sky Sessions. And let me explain this form of info sponging. Again, we've already talked about 5-year-old day, to take the time to ask questions about everything you know and everything you do to make sure that it still makes sense. And then we talked about info sponging to learn things from other industries so that you can steal their ideas in your industry. But here's a third one. And let me explain why. The way that most people innovate is they stare at their industry and their company to see how to make it better. The boss comes in. Let's say that you own a restaurant, that you sell cheeseburgers and Coca-Cola in your restaurant. And your boss comes in and says, guys, we're not growing. We need to be more innovative. So what you would do is you would walk around your burger restaurant and you would say, well, I can't make French fries any faster because if I heat up the grease anymore, it ruins the potatoes. So I don't have an idea how to innovate that. And then you'd say, well, I can't exactly make I can't exactly pour Diet Coke faster because it splashes all over. So you would turn to your boss and say, I've looked at our business and I can't figure out how to innovate it. But that's not what I taught you today. What I taught you today is to think outside of your industry. So we do an exercise called a blue sky session. We do them once a year. Here's what a blue sky session is. It's the answer to this question. If I gave you a blank whiteboard and a pen, and I said, let's pretend our company did not exist and we were starting our company over from scratch to today. Design our company from scratch, starting over today. The reason people don't innovate that way is if you were a healthcare or restaurant company, like I just talked about, and I told you to innovate, and you've been doing it for 20 years, and I asked you to innovate, you would just create Restaurant 21.0. And the problem with Restaurant 21.0 is it contains all the legacy systems, all the bad decisions, right? All the budgets and constraints you already have in your business. You just try to drag them forward and make them a little better. So instead of looking at your existing business and saying, how can I make my business a little better? I want you to do this exercise. I want you to reinvent your business from scratch today. When we do a blue sky session, there's no budget, because when you're talking about innovating your business, a lot of times you say, well, we don't have that kind of budget, right? Or you say, well, we already have these existing systems. Well, our customers won't let us do that. When you look at your existing business and your existing budget, and your existing constraints, and you try to make it a little better, you start here and you only move a little way down. But what I want you to do is reinvent your business from scratch, and you're going to create something crazy. And the truth is, the ideas you're going to come up with, you can't build. But if you start with a reinvented business, the perfect business, and then start bringing it back towards reality, you're going to create something that's way more innovative than just looking at your business today. So let me give you an example of that. One day we were doing a blue sky session, and one of my employees was late. And I said, where have you been? And he said, oh, by the way, when you do these meetings, I forgot to mention this, everybody, when we do a blue sky meeting, and our question is, if you were starting our business over from today, what would you design? It's open, it's not required for anybody, but it's open to everybody. Anybody in the company at any job level can come in the room. And there's no titles, there's no org chart. We're all in one, we're all on the same level when we design our new company. So I said to my employee, why are you late for the meeting? He said, I was going to the fast food restaurant and it wasn't fast. He took this picture because this is what was delaying it. And I said, you know what, guys, let's take a minute and let's ask the question about fast food restaurants that we have, especially here in the United States. if we were going to design a fast food restaurant starting over, in other words, don't do it the old way of innovating. The old way is to go inside that restaurant, walk around McDonald's and try to see what you can prove. The blue sky way, I told you, is to pretend there was no McDonald's and start dreaming with crazy ideas. What's the coolest way you could think of to get people lunch? So one of my employees said to me, he said, Jeff, I went to a concert the other night. Same thing happens at a football game. And he said, at the concert, they had these cannons and they were shooting T-shirts to the audience. They were shooting T-shirts up into the stand. Sometimes when you go to a football game, they're shooting T-shirts up into the audience with a T-shirt cannon. And I said, what does that have to do with lunch? And he said, well, here's my idea. He said, that what's slow is driving into the drive-through lane and ordering. And he said, so in my invention of fast food, I'm not going to stop my car. I'm going to be driving past McDonald's and I'm going to text them my order. And the McDonald's employees are going to be sitting outside on the side of the street with lunch cannons. And I'm going to open the window of my car. And as I drive by, they're going to shoot cheeseburgers into my car from a cannon. Now, folks, you can't really do that. But we started there. Instead of starting looking at the French fries and asking how to make them faster, we started by completely reinventing our business. And when we started saying, okay, we can't shoot cheeseburgers in a cannon, but that started us saying, let's back down from there. And what we wound up doing was launching a whole new company. We came up with this crazy idea that we really tested, where we put an electric eye in the parking lot in the drive-through lane. And when you pull up to McDonald's, what slows you down is you have to stop and they say, welcome to McDonald's, what would you like to order? And you're sitting there thinking the same thing I order every time I come to this exact McDonald's. Why do you never recognize it? So we couldn't shoot your lunch in a cannon, but we put an eye in there and the eye looks at your car and looks at your license plate. And it says, that's Jeff. He always gets a number 6 combo with no onions. So they're making my food and I never stop to order it. It's already fat. It's not a cannon, but it's faster than stopping because the electric eye sees me. And unless I'm going to change my order, it's already preparing my food. And then we realize the next thing that slows you down is you have to stop and pay and they have to count out money. So the electric eye says to my phone, hey, Jeff, you come here every Tuesday and every Thursday, I noticed, while you're taking the kids to soccer practice. Would you like me to just bill your credit card once a month? You don't have to take your card out every time and pay. I know who you are. I'll just charge you. And so we don't have to take time paying. And I said, yes. And so now I don't have to stop and order and I don't have to stop and pay. And guess what's happening? We created a new drive-through lane where it's not a cannon, but instead of stopping and order and stopping to pay, it's the express lane. And as you drive by, there's a hand out the window and someone is just holding your order because they already know who you are. It's already paid for. And you don't really even have to stop the car. You just slow down, grab your food and keep driving. We didn't get to a cannon, but we came up with an idea that's so much better than the way it's done today because we tried to figure out what's the closest we could get to shooting you lunch. That is a blue sky session. Start by reinventing your business and asking yourself, if we started our business over today with everything we know today, you didn't design your business for social media. You went back and added social media. You didn't design most of your businesses to really use the full power of your mobile phone. You went back and added a mobile app. What if you designed your whole business on a mobile phone from the first place, or with social media, or with an electric eye, or whatever it is? That's a blue sky session. So let me summarize what we learned today. First of all, while you sleep, somebody invented something cool. So when you get up in the morning, you need to spend some time figuring out what cool new things did the rest of the world invent that you could look at like a hologram, right? Like virtual reality, like whatever it is, facial recognition. You need to take time to go see what the world's inventing and then sit there and say, could I use this new invention in my business in some way that no one has ever done before? You need to be the first person to find new innovations and to use them in your industry. Next, we talked about wondering like a child. the 5-year-old day. You need to take time to walk around and say, why do we do this at our company? Why do we print those reports? What does that girl that worked here do all day? Why do we have these machines in our lobby? Several times a year, either act like a 5-year-old or bring some in and let them question everything you do. And you'll be amazed at how many things you're still doing just because you've always done it that way, not because it's the best way to do it anymore. Next, we talked about info sponging. Spend time to learn one new thing a day that you don't need to know. One new thing a week. Go see what banks are doing. Go see what, excuse me, healthcare is doing. Go see what the rest of the world is doing so that you can take new ideas and combine them in your industry in ways like Uber did or Airbnb or many of the innovators. And last, we closed with a blue sky session. Once a year, sit down and ask your whole team, if we had no company and we were starting our company from scratch right now today, let's design the company we would build today if we had no budget and no restraints, and then see how close you can come to creating that company, not fixing the one that you have. So again, I hope these were helpful tips to you on what the world's most innovative people and companies do. I hope that you will get a chance to use some of these ideas and go try to innovate your company. And I hope that some of you will share with me your results. I'm easy enough to find. My Twitter is Speaker Jeff, Instagram is Speaker Jeff Hoffman. My website is jeffhoffman.com. Thank you and good luck innovating.
Muchas gracias, Jeff, por tan interesante conferencia, todo lo que nos has proporcionado en esta oportunidad. Gracias por permitir a toda la región SICA, a todos los países, los 8 países que integramos la región SICA, pues conocer un poco más de ti, conocer un poco más de todo el tema de cómo podemos innovar. Ha sido muy, muy gratificante. Muchas gracias a todas y todos por haberse unido a este espacio, que es nuestra primera conferencia de este día. Y no tenemos preguntas y respuestas, ¿verdad? Ya estamos casi que a tiempo de poder abrir la siguiente sala para el primer panel de este día. Entonces les quiero invitar para que no se desconecten de la plataforma del cuarto encuentro Sí que Emprende, para que puedan dentro de unos 12 minutos, 10 minutos, el primer panel, el panel de este día, que vamos a hablar sobre modelos integrales de atención a emprendimientos de alto impacto. Así es que tenemos a 3 grandes expertos con una persona que va a moderar. Así es que a todas y todos, muchas gracias por incorporarse a este cuarto encuentro Sí que Emprende, y nos vemos en unos cuantos minutitos, 10 minutos para ser exacta aproximadamente. Gracias. Feliz tarde a todas y todos.